But first, there are fresh revelations this morning on the campaign by the board of the National Broadband Network to save directors' jobs. We can reveal that NBN co-chairman Siobhan McKenna has met with senior Canberra bureaucrats outside the communications sector to emphasise her own credentials and to try to cement her position ahead of the federal election. The NBN has also confirmed it has hired powerful lobby group Bespoke Approach to try to secure the support of coalition MPs. In a moment, we will speak with Shadow Minister for Communications, Malcolm Turnbull. But first, a look at the NBN's troubled legacy. It's supposed to be world-class, $37.4 billion, millions of kilometres of fibre optic cable. The National Broadband Network is the biggest infrastructure project Australia has ever seen, designed to bring faster broadband to 13 million homes, schools and businesses. But NBN Co has been dogged by problems. First, there was the slow rollout. Then residents were exposed to asbestos in telecommunications pits. And on Friday, Chief Executive Mike Quigley resigned, and not unexpectedly. Earlier this month, the Fin Review revealed the chair of the NBN board, Siobhan McKenna, had asked international headhunters to find a new chief exec. Today, the NBN Co confirmed reports that it has hired a lobbying firm to persuade coalition politicians that the board and senior executives are doing a good job. And this morning's news that Siobhan McKenna is also spending time in Canberra to talk up the NBN and her leadership to bureaucrats shows how much she fears there'll be a clear-out under a coalition government. And joining us this morning, Shadow Minister for Communications Malcolm Turnbull and Tony Boyd, Chanticleer columnist for the Fin Review. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Malcolm Turnbull, you've been highly critical of NBN Co and its board, and they're obviously expecting the worst under a coalition government. Who's next to go? Will Siobhan McKenna, will her head go under a coalition government?
Well, we're not making any comments about personalities. The only observation I've made is that it is remarkable that such a large board doesn't have anyone with hands-on experience in building a telecommunications network or running one. And if you were assembling a board for a project of this kind, that's the sort of experience you would want to have on it. And so people can draw their own conclusions from that, but I don't want to make any personal, observations about the prospects of one director or another in the event the coalition wins government.
They're obviously fearful of their positions, though, if they're hiring a private lobby group, Bespoke, to be involved to try to secure their positions.
Well, look, it raises a lot of questions. I mean, Bespoke is a very good firm. My old colleague Alexander Downer is one of the principals, and I've got great respect for them. So I make no criticism of Bespoke. They're very capable. But you have to ask yourself, why is the board, the chairman and the board, hiring a lobbying group to promote the qualities of the board, not the senior management? Apparently Mr Quigley knew nothing about this, by the way. So this has been done by the chairman and the board. And directors should only be spending the company's money in good faith and in the best interest of the company. Now, the question that Siobhan McKenna and the directors have to answer is whether this investment in Bespoke to go out and lobby for the, promote the virtues and talents and accomplishments of the directors, whether, as distinct from the company, whether that is really rather more in the director's interest than it is in the interests of the company as a whole. And there's been a lot of case law about this, and I have to say, as now pretty much a bush lawyer, I think it's very questionable whether that should be an expense borne by the company. Maybe something directors want to do, but I struggle to see why it's in the company's interest.
I wonder if we could ask Malcolm, do you think that the appointment of the new CEO should happen after the election? Because there's actually the possibility that they might replace this person before there's potentially a change of government.
Well, look, I think it'd be remarkable if they did that. The election is either 6 weeks or 12 weeks away. It's not very far away. I don't think you would find people of real quality that would be prepared to take the job up. Who would you recommend? Ziggy Switkowski, is he your top pick? Well, Ziggy Switkowski is a very capable telecom executive. He's more, I think, at this stage of his career in the non-executive director role. He's chairman, as you know, of Suncorp and other companies. He's a hugely capable person and very familiar with government business enterprises. But again, I don't want to comment on Ziggy Switkowski is the sort of person that should have been on the board, frankly. Okay. But I don't want to comment on, I know the Fin Review has a lot of speculation about who might be the new CEO. I'll leave that to you guys to run the odds on that.
Well, so much for politics being kinder and gentler. The Liberals have launched major attack ads this morning and against Kevin Rudd. Here's a taste.
Last time Kevin Rudd was Prime Minister, he left behind a trail of disaster. Kevin Rudd was borrowing $100 million every day, and now we have a $254 billion debt. He wasted up to $8 billion.
You are spooked by Kevin Rudd, aren't you? And rightly so. With the opinion polls, it looks like Tony Abbott and the coalition, the Liberals, are flat-footed on this one.
No, that's not right. I mean, all that ad is doing is reminding people of Kevin Rudd's record. I mean, Kevin is trying to persuade people that he's just sort of reappeared on the scene, and all of the disasters of his first term as Prime Minister are in the far distant past. You know, the failures of the Rudd-Gillard governments were either directly at the hands of Kevin Rudd or were policies that, such as the NBN, that were mismanaged and misconceived by Kevin Rudd. You know, if Kevin Rudd at the outset had done a proper cost-benefit analysis, as he promised he would, and analysed all of the options for ensuring all Australians had very fast broadband, analysed the costs and benefits of different technologies, if he'd done that homework, we wouldn't be in the mess we are at the moment.
But he has come out today through one of the Sunday newspapers and said that he's going to scrap the carbon tax. And obviously that leaves a big hole in the opposition's budget for you as well.
Well, it doesn't leave a hole in our budget because our policy, as you know, is to abolish the whole emissions trading scheme, you know, and including the fixed price.
But it leaves a hole in your attack on Labor going into the election, doesn't it?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, what he's proposing to do is to terminate the fixed price period 1 year earlier, and that will leave a $4.5 billion hole in his budget. But there will still be, in effect, a tax on carbon. I mean, the term carbon tax is used in two senses. It's sometimes used in a more technical sense to distinguish between a fixed price on carbon and a floating price that you get from an emissions trading scheme. So people might say, I prefer a carbon tax, i.e. a fixed price, as opposed to an ETS or vice versa. But as a, overall, whether the price is, if you're paying $25 a tonne for a permit or on a floating scheme, or $25 a tonne as a carbon tax, it's still $25. So it's still, it is overall, you can generically, in a general sense, describe all of these mechanisms as a carbon tax.
On the issue of leadership, you personally are twice as popular, if the opinion polls are to be believed, than Tony Abbott. When we told people that we had you coming on the show, a lot of people were saying, oh, Malcolm, we love Malcolm. Are you still singing from the same songbook as Kevin Rudd was prior to being reinstated as Prime Minister, saying he had no ambitions for the leadership? Can you categorically rule out having no ambitions for the leadership?
Let me just say, there's a big difference between me and Kevin. Many differences, I might add.
Some similarities, though. You're both quite popular among voters.
Well, one of the biggest differences is that, yes, I lost the leadership and Tony Abbott became the leader of the opposition. I have worked diligently as a member of the team, and we are a team. That's a big difference between our show and Labor's. You know, Labor's is a personality cult. You know, it's going to be all about Kevin. Our project is all about our team.
Will you roll out a tilt?
But I have not. Of course, look, there's not going to be any change in our leadership, so you don't have to, that's not going to happen. But the big difference is that I am part of that team. And look, Deborah, I know there are a lot of people out there who would rather I was leading the Liberal Party. It's ridiculous to deny that, pretend that's not happening. But the message I have for them is this. We are a team. If they think I'm a person of capability and quality and so forth, they should be comforted by the fact that I am part of that team in a senior leadership position. Tony Abbott is not going to be elected, if he is elected, as a president or as a dictator. He is first among equals. We will have a conventional, traditional cabinet government. So if you're a Malcolm Turnbull fan rather than a Tony Abbott fan, you may prefer Malcolm was in, I was in the top job rather than Tony, but I will be at the top table. And so I say to those people who support me, vote coalition. Vote for the team of which I am part, of which Tony Abbott is the leader, of which Julie Bishop is part, Joe Hockey, and a very fine group of people who've worked together with stability, coherence and consistency for 3 years, as opposed to the rabble we've seen from Labor.
Okay.
But should investors be worried when you're Communications Minister, in the sense that contracts with Telstra, the $11 billion deal with the NBN, that could well be turned on its head? There's other contracts with publicly listed companies. Should people be concerned with you as a communications minister?
Well, no, they should be. I think most people in business will be relieved because I do have a background in business and I understand the importance of contracts. We've made it very clear that Telstra shareholders will be kept whole, so they have nothing to fear from a change of government. As far as contracts with contractors are concerned, well, the problems are actually not with anything we might do. The problems are the contractors are losing a fortune. You know, Silcar has been very open. They've lost a fortune. Service Stream has lost so much money. Their listing has been suspended.
We'll have more from Malcolm Turnbull shortly. And anger on the farm with one of our largest grain handlers poised to fall into foreign hands.